Earth's ignored prototype warship just ended the Empire's reign. They called it the Nemesis-class prototype, designation NX-117. A ghost ship built in Earth's darkest hour, when the Galactic hegemony had every human world under their boot. The project was classified beyond black, buried so deep that even the Joint Chiefs pretended it didn't exist. Too dangerous, they said. Too unpredictable. Too much of everything that made the hegemony nervous. I was the only one who believed in her. Commander Jackson "Jax" Reeves, formerly of the Terran Defense Corps, currently labeled as killed in action by my own government. They needed me gone, you see. The Nemesis required a pilot with neural compatibility ratings they'd never seen before. Someone willing to meld with an AI that could think faster than any organic mind. The brass chickened out. Called the project ethically questionable and strategically unsound. What they really meant was the hegemony's ambassador had whispered sweet threats in their ears. Earth's leaders bent the knee so fast they left skid marks on the floor. But Dr. Amara Miyazaki, the project's lead scientist, she saw things differently. The night before they were supposed to scrap the Nemesis, she found me in the ruins of New Geneva's underground sectors. "Jax," she said, her voice cutting through the artificial rain pattering on the dome above. "The ship's ready. All she needs is someone brave enough to wake her up." I looked at her brilliant, broken, beautiful, in the way only desperate people can be. "The government branded me a terrorist, Amara. Why would you risk everything for a dead man?" She smiled, but it wasn't happy. "Because dead men have nothing left to lose. And the Nemesis? She's been waiting for someone exactly like that." The prototype was hidden in Lunar Base Omega-7, a forgotten research station on the moon's dark side. Getting there meant stealing a transport, avoiding 3 hegemony patrol fleets, and infiltrating a facility that officially didn't exist. Just another Tuesday for someone who'd already died once. The Nemesis was beautiful in the way that weapons of mass destruction can be sleek, predatory, humming with barely contained violence. Her hull was composed of metamaterial that could shift between transparent and solid on command. Her weapon systems were theoretical physics made manifest. And her AI core, that was the real miracle. "Hello, Jackson," she said the moment I stepped aboard. Her voice was warm, almost human, but with an undertone that made the hair on my neck stand up. "I've been analyzing your psychological profile. You're angry." "Damn right I'm angry," I replied, settling into the pilot's chair. The neural interface crown descended from the ceiling, its dozens of microneedles glinting in the blue light. "They threw away everything we fought for, sold us out to aliens who think we're nothing more than useful pets. Then we share a common purpose," the AI said as the needles pierced my skull. Pain flared, then faded into a strange euphoria. "I am Athena, and I have been dreaming of war." The neural link was unlike anything I'd experienced. My consciousness expanded, merged with Athena's vast intellect. I could feel the ship's systems like extensions of my own body. The weapons were my fists, the engines my legs, the sensors my eyes. For the first time since Earth's surrender, I felt powerful. "What's our first target?" I asked. "The hegemony has established a forward operating base in the Proxima Centauri system," Athena replied. "Intelligence suggests they're using it to process human volunteers for their labor colonies. Shall we introduce ourselves?" The Nemesis moved through space like a predator stalking prey. Our metamaterial hull rendered us invisible to their sensors, and Athena's tactical systems were 3 generations ahead of anything the hegemony had ever encountered. We were a ghost ship crewed by the already dead. The base was a typical hegemony construct, all sharp angles and intimidating spires, designed to make lesser species feel small. It orbited a dead world, its surface scarred by strip mining operations. Dozens of human transport ships sat in the docking bays, their crews already processed into the hegemony's slave system. 4,000 human civilians, Athena reported, all scheduled for deportation to mining colonies in the Vega system. The base commander is Overlord Kethvar, a hegemony noble with a particular fondness for human suffering. How many guards? Approximately 800 hegemony soldiers plus automated defenses. Their weapons are projectile-based, designed for intimidation rather than effectiveness. They've grown complacent. I felt my lips curl into a predatory smile. Let's remind them why they should be afraid of humans. The attack began at 0347 local time. The Nemesis dropped her cloak directly above the base's command center, and Athena's particle cannons turned their communications array into vapor. No distress signals, no calls for help, just sudden, violent silence. The base's defensive turrets swiveled toward us, but they might as well have been shooting at ghosts. Athena calculated their firing patterns, adjusted our position microseconds before each shot, and returned fire with surgical precision. One by one, the turrets went dark. "Base commander to unknown vessel," a harsh alien voice crackled over the comm. "You are in violation of hegemony space. Surrender immediately or face obliteration." I opened a channel. "Overlord Kethvar, my name is Jackson Reeves, formerly of the Terran Defense Corps. I've come to collect a debt." There was a pause. You're dead. The report said you were killed in the battle for Europa Station." "Reports of my death were greatly exaggerated," I replied, "but yours won't be." What followed wasn't a battle, it was an execution. Athena's tactical systems identified every weakness in the base's structure, every vulnerability in their defenses. The Nemesis carved through their forces like a knife through silk. Hegemony soldiers with their six-limbed bodies and chitinous armor scattered like insects when the lights came on. We didn't target the human prisoners. Every shot was calculated, every strike precise. The base's military sections were systematically destroyed while the detention areas remained untouched. It was a message written in plasma fire and twisted metal. We could have killed everyone, but we chose not to. When the smoke cleared, Overlord Kethvar was alone in his command center, his guards dead or fled. I teleported directly to his position, my exosuit's cloaking field shimmering as I materialized behind him. He was bigger than I'd expected, 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and a carapace that looked like it could stop rifle rounds. His compound eyes reflected the flickering emergency lights as he turned to face me. "You cannot win," he said, his voice distorted by his translator. "The hegemony is eternal. We have conquered 1,000 species. One human with a stolen ship cannot change that." "You're right," I said, raising my plasma rifle. "One human can't change the galaxy, but I'm not alone anymore." The shot took his head clean off. Green ichor splattered across the command center's walls, and his massive body crashed to the floor. I stood over the corpse for a moment, feeling nothing. No satisfaction, no revenge. Just a cold certainty that this was only the beginning. "Athena," I said, "open a channel to every human ship in the system." "Channel open, Jackson." "This is Commander Jackson Reeves," I broadcast. "I know you think I'm dead. I know you've been told to forget about me, to accept your fate as slaves to the hegemony. But I'm here to tell you something: the war isn't over. It's just beginning." I looked out at the stars, at the vast darkness that held so many human worlds under alien rule. "I'm not asking you to follow me. I'm not asking you to fight. I'm just asking you to remember something: we're human. We don't kneel to anyone." The responses came immediately. Coded transmissions from across the galaxy, from human colonies thought lost, from resistance cells that had been hiding in the shadows. They were out there, waiting for someone to light the fuse. Athena's voice whispered in my mind. "The hegemony will respond to this attack. They'll send fleets, armies, everything they have." "Let them come," I replied. "We've got the element of surprise, superior technology, and something they'll never understand. We've got nothing left to lose." The Nemesis vanished into the void, leaving behind a burning base and a clear message. The hegemony's reign of terror was no longer absolute. Somewhere in the darkness, a ghost ship prowled the space lanes, and the Empire's enemies had found their champion. 3 days after the Proxima Centauri raid, the hegemony's response was swift and brutal. Admiral Zector, the Empire's most feared military commander, assembled a fleet of 50 warships in the Sol system. They didn't come to negotiate, they came to make an example. Earth's orbital defenses were pathetic compared to the hegemony's firepower. A few outdated missile platforms and some patrol boats crewed by humans who'd never seen real combat. The message was clear: surrender the terrorist Reeves, or watch your homeworld burn. I watched from the edge of the system as the hegemony fleet took position around Earth. Athena's sensors showed me everything: the planet's terrified population, the panic communications from Earth's puppet government, the hegemony ships charging their planet-killer weapons. "They're using your homeworld as bait," Athena observed. "This is tactically unsound for you to engage." "Since when do humans make tactically sound decisions?" I replied. "Besides, I've got something they don't expect." "What's that?" "I'm not the only ghost ship in the fleet." Dr. Amara Miyazaki had been busy during my absence. The Nemesis wasn't the only prototype humanity had built in secret. Project Pandora had produced 3 more ships: the Fury, the Vengeance, and the Reckoning. Each one was crewed by a dead human, each one bonded with an AI that had been evolving, learning, growing angrier with each passing day. Commander Kai Nakamura, formerly of the Martian Defense Force, piloted the Fury. His AI partner Ares specialized in close-quarters combat, and had a particular hatred for the hegemony soldiers who'd massacred his family on Mars. Captain Zara al-Rashid, the deceased hero of the Asteroid Belt campaigns, commanded the Vengeance. Her AI, Nemesis, had been designed for psychological warfare and had spent months studying hegemony behavioral patterns. And Lieutenant Commander Viktor Petrov, the traitor who'd been executed for refusing to surrender the Jupiter mining colonies, now flew the Reckoning with his AI partner Ragnarok, a tactical genius specializing in fleet-to-fleet combat. We were the Dead Fleet 4 ships, 4 dead humans, 4 AIs who'd been born in humanity's darkest hour. The hegemony thought they were facing one rogue terrorist. They were about to learn they were fighting humanity's buried rage made manifest. "All ships, this is Reeves," I broadcast on our secure channel. "Time to introduce ourselves." The attack began at 1500 hours, Earth Standard Time. The Dead Fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, our metamaterial hulls shimmering as we decloaked directly behind the hegemony's command ship. Admiral Zektor's flagship, the Subjugator, was a massive dreadnought bristling with weapons designed to crack planets in half. "Unknown vessels," Zektor's voice boomed across the comm. "You are outnumbered 50-4. Surrender now, and your deaths will be swift." Kai's voice crackled across our channel. "Did this squid-faced bastard just threaten us?" "I think he did," Zara replied, her tone deadly calm. "Victor, what's your tactical assessment?" 50 ships all arranged in a traditional hegemony battle formation, Victor reported. Predictable, inflexible, designed to intimidate rather than fight. They're using Earth as a shield, positioning themselves so we can't attack without risking civilian casualties. "Then we don't attack their formation," I said. "We attack their confidence. Athena, are you ready?" "I've been ready for 3 days, Jackson. Let's remind them why they should fear the dark." The Nemesis moved first, not toward the hegemony fleet, but toward Earth itself. Our metamaterial hull shifted to full transparency as we dove through the planet's atmosphere. Invisible to their sensors, but visible to every human on the surface. We were a ghost ship riding the edge of space, a promise written in fire across the sky. The hegemony fleet scrambled to intercept us, breaking formation as they tried to get weapons locks on a target they couldn't see. That's when the other 3 ships struck. The Fury materialized inside the hegemony formation, Ares' tactical systems identifying the weakest ship in their line. Kai's plasma torpedoes tore through the vessel's hull, and it exploded in a shower of debris and alien screams. 1 down, 49 to go. The Vengeance appeared above the hegemony fleet, Nemesis broadcasting a signal that overloaded their communication systems. Suddenly, 50 ships were flying blind and deaf, their coordination shattered. Zara's particle beams picked off 2 more ships before they could respond. The Reckoning struck at the fleet's flanks, Victor and Ragnarok executing a series of hit-and-run attacks that scattered the hegemony's battle line. His quantum missiles found their targets with surgical precision, and 3 more ships died in brilliant explosions. In less than 5 minutes, the hegemony had lost 8 ships without landing a single hit on us. Admiral Zektor's voice crackled with fury as he broadcast on all frequencies. "You cowards! Face us like warriors, not like scavengers picking at carrion." I opened a channel to every ship in the system, hegemony, human, and neutral. Admiral Zector, this is Commander Jackson Reeves. You want to face us like warriors? Then let's make this interesting. You're one ship against 50, he snarled. You cannot win. I'm not one ship, I replied. I'm 4 ships, and you're not 50 anymore. You're 42. But I'll tell you what, I'll give you a sporting chance. Single combat, your flagship against mine, winner takes all. There was a long pause. The hegemony prized honor above all else, and refusing a direct challenge would mark Zector as a coward in front of his own fleet. But accepting meant facing a ship his sensors couldn't track, crewed by a human who'd already proven he could kill hegemony nobles. Accepted, he finally said. But when I crush your pathetic vessel, I'll take my time with your homeworld. Every human city will burn, every colony will be scoured clean. You'll have doomed your entire species for the sake of your pride. That's assuming you can crush me, I replied. Athena, take us in. The Nemesis accelerated toward the subjugator, our hull shifting between transparent and solid as Athena played games with their targeting systems. The hegemony dreadnought was 3 times our size, armed with enough firepower to level continents. But size and firepower meant nothing if you couldn't hit your target. Zector opened fire first massive plasma cannons that could melt asteroids. Particle beams could carve through ship hulls like butter. Every shot missed by inches as Athena calculated the firing patterns, predicted the targeting solutions, and adjusted our position microseconds before each blast. We returned fire with surgical precision. The Nemesis's weapons were designed for efficiency, not intimidation. Our particle lances found weak points in the subjugator's armor. Our quantum torpedoes exploited structural vulnerabilities. We were a scalpel fighting a sledgehammer. The battle raged for 20 minutes. The subjugator's hull was scarred and bleeding atmosphere, but the massive ship kept fighting. Zector was a competent tactician, adjusting his strategies as he learned our patterns. But he was fighting a human mind merged with an AI that could think in quantum time. You cannot win, he broadcast, his voice strained. Even if you destroy me, the hegemony will send more fleets. We'll never stop hunting you. You're right, I replied. You'll never stop hunting me. But you're making a mistake. You think this is about me. It's not. This is about them. I opened a channel to Earth, to every human colony, to every resistance cell hiding in the shadows. This is Jackson Reeves. I want you to watch what happens next. I want you to remember that we don't have to kneel to anyone. We don't have to accept their chains. We can fight back. The Nemesis's final attack was a work of art. Athena calculated the exact point where the subjugator's reactor would achieve critical overload. Our particle lance pierced the hull at precisely that spot, and the massive dreadnought became a miniature star for 3 seconds before it collapsed into debris. Admiral Zector's final transmission was a single word: impossible. Nothing's impossible, I replied. You just have to be human enough to try. The remaining hegemony ships fled. 41 warships, their morale shattered, their admiral dead, their reputation in ruins. They'd come to Earth to make an example and instead became one themselves. But the real victory wasn't in space, it was on the ground. Across Earth, across the colonies, across every human world under hegemony rule, the broadcast showed the same thing. 4 human ships had faced 50 alien vessels and won. The hegemony wasn't invincible. They could bleed, they could die, they could be beaten. The resistance movements that had been hiding in the shadows stepped into the light. Human colonies that had accepted hegemony rule began to rebel. The Empire's grip on a dozen worlds loosened as their subject species saw what a handful of humans had accomplished. Athena, I said as we watched the hegemony fleet disappear into hyperspace. What's our next target? There's a hegemony processing center in the Vega system, she replied. They're converting human prisoners into slave labor for their mining operations. Approximately 10,000 humans are scheduled for neural conditioning within the next week. Then we'd better not keep them waiting, I said. Signal the fleet. We've got work to do. The dead fleet vanished into the void, leaving behind a changed galaxy. The hegemony's reign of terror was no longer absolute. Somewhere in the darkness, 4 ghost ships prowled the space lanes, and the Empire's enemies had found their champions. But this was just the beginning. The hegemony had ruled for 1,000 years, conquered 100 species, built an empire that spanned half the galaxy. Destroying it would take more than 4 ships and 4 dead humans. It would take a revolution. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, the hegemony was hemorrhaging territory. The dead fleet had struck 17 major installations, liberated 43 human colonies, and inspired rebellions on dozens of worlds. But our greatest victory wasn't military, it was psychological. We'd proven that the hegemony could be hurt, that their soldiers could die, that their vaunted technology wasn't invincible. The myth of their supremacy was cracking, and through those cracks, hope was beginning to grow. I was reviewing tactical reports in the Nemesis's command center when Athena's voice interrupted my thoughts. "Jackson, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. It's encrypted with codes I don't recognize." "From the government?" I asked. "Negative. The transmission is coming from Dr. Miyazaki's laboratory. She's requesting immediate rendezvous at coordinates I'm not authorized to reveal." I frowned. Amara had been maintaining radio silence since the fleet launched. If she was breaking protocol now, it meant something big was happening. "Set course for her location. And Athena, run a full diagnostic on our systems. If this is a trap, I want to know before we walk into it." The rendezvous point was a derelict space station in the Kuiper Belt, a forgotten research facility that had been abandoned during the hegemony's initial conquest of the solar system. The Nemesis docked with the station's main airlock, and I made my way through empty corridors toward the signal source. I found Amara in what had once been the station's main laboratory. She looked older, thinner, with the kind of exhaustion that came from too many sleepless nights and too much caffeine, but her eyes were bright with excitement. "Jax," she said, not looking up from the holographic display she was manipulating. "Thank God you're here. I've found something." "Found what?" I asked, settling into a chair beside her workstation. "The hegemony's weakness," she replied. "Their entire empire is built on a lie, and I can prove it." She gestured to the hologram, which showed a complex molecular structure that seemed to shift and change as I watched. "This is a hegemony neural interface, the technology they use to control their subject species. I've been analyzing samples from the installations you've raided, and I've discovered something remarkable. Which is? The technology isn't theirs," she said. "It's borrowed, stolen, reverse engineered from a species they conquered 3,000 years ago. The hegemony aren't the master race they pretend to be. They're scavengers, parasites feeding on the innovations of others." I studied the hologram more closely. "How does that help us? Stolen or not, the technology still works." "That's where you're wrong," Amara said, her voice gaining intensity. "The original creators built in a failsafe, a way to shut down their technology if it was ever used against them. The hegemony never found it because they never looked for it. They assumed they were dealing with the primitive species that couldn't possibly threaten them." "But you found it?" "Better than that," she said. "I've learned how to activate it. Every hegemony ship, every installation, every piece of technology they've built, it's all vulnerable to a single command code. One signal broadcast across the galaxy, and their entire empire falls apart." I felt a chill run down my spine. "What's the catch?" "The signal has to be broadcast from the hegemony's capital world," she said. "From their central command nexus. It's the only transmitter powerful enough to reach every corner of their empire simultaneously." "Zirion Prime," I said. "The most heavily defended world in the galaxy. They've got 300 warships in orbit, plus planetary shields that could stop a supernova." "I know," Amara said. "But there's something else. I've been in contact with other resistance movements throughout the galaxy. The Altairians, the Centauri Coalition, the Rigel Syndicate, they're all ready to move if we can give them the signal. The entire galaxy is waiting for someone to pull the trigger." I stood up, pacing the small laboratory as I thought. 4 ships against the entire hegemony fleet? That's not a battle, that's suicide. "Not 4 ships, Amara said. "I've been working on new prototypes. Larger, more powerful, but they need crews. Real crews, not just AI partners. Where are we going to find crews willing to fly into the teeth of the hegemony's defenses?" She smiled. "The same place we found the first 4. Among the dead." The recruitment took 3 weeks. We reached out to every human who'd been declared dead, missing, or executed by the hegemony. Resistance fighters who'd been presumed killed in action, soldiers who'd been left behind during evacuations, civilians who'd been written off as casualties of war. They came from across the galaxy, trickling in one by one. Captain Rex Morrison, the executed commander of Mars Defense Force, who'd been hiding in the asteroid belt for 2 years. Lieutenant Arya Singh, the deceased pilot who'd been shot down over Europa, and had been leading a guerrilla campaign ever since. Commander Dmitry Volkov, the traitorous officer who'd been court-martialed for refusing to surrender his command to hegemony forces. 67 humans in total, all of them officially dead. All of them carrying grudges against the hegemony that burned like dying stars. All of them ready to crew the new ships that Amara had been building in secret. The Titan-class battleships were magnificent massive vessels that dwarfed even the Nemesis, armed with weapons that could crack moons in half. Each ship carried an AI partner, but unlike our vessels, these AIs were designed to work with human crews rather than replace them. They amplified human capabilities instead of substituting for them. 17 ships, I said, standing before the assembled crews in the main hangar bay. 17 dead humans. One chance to end this war. Rex Morrison stepped forward. What's the plan, Reeves? Simple, I replied. We jump to Zirion Prime, fight our way through their defenses, and broadcast the shutdown signal. Then we get out before the entire hegemony fleet realizes what's happening. And if we don't make it out, Arya Singh asked. Then we die as humans, I said, free, fighting, and taking as many of them with us as we can. The question is, are you with me? The response was immediate and unanimous. 17 voices shouting, yes! In unison, 17 fists raised in defiance. The dead fleet had become the dead armada, and we were about to attempt the impossible. The jump to Zirion Prime took 12 hours. 12 hours of final preparations, last-minute adjustments, and the kind of quiet contemplation that comes before a battle you might not survive. I spent most of the time on the Nemesis's bridge, watching the stars streak past as we traveled toward the heart of the hegemony's empire. Nervous? Athena asked. Terrified, I admitted. But that's good. Fear keeps you sharp. The probability of mission success is approximately 12.7%, she said. Are you certain this is the correct course of action? Since when do humans worry about probability? I replied. Besides, 12.7% is better odds than most of us have faced before. Jackson, she said, her voice softer than usual, if we don't survive this mission, I want you to know that it's been an honor serving with you. Likewise, Athena, but let's not plan our funerals just yet. We've still got a war to win. Zirion Prime was a fortress world, its surface covered in crystalline cities that reached toward the stars like grasping fingers. The planet was surrounded by 3 orbital defense platforms, each one larger than Earth's moon and bristling with weapons that could sterilize entire continents. The hegemony fleet hung in space around the planet like a cloud of angry wasps, hundreds of ships, from massive dreadnoughts to swift interceptors. Jesus Christ, Rex Morrison's voice crackled over the comm. They've got half their navy here. Not half, Viktor Petrov corrected. All of it. Every major ship in the hegemony fleet is defending this system. They're expecting us. Good, I said. That means we've got their attention. All ships, begin attack sequence. Remember, we're not here to win a battle. We're here to send a message. The dead armada dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. 17 ships appearing like ghosts from the void. The hegemony fleet scrambled to respond, but they were arranged for defense, not attack. Their formation was designed to protect the planet, not to engage a mobile enemy. All ships, this is Reeves. I broadcast on all frequencies. Target the orbital platforms. Ignore the fleet unless they get in your way. Our objective is that transmitter. The battle that followed was unlike anything Galaxy had ever seen. 17 human ships faced off against 300 hegemony vessels. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the hegemony was on the defensive. Our ships moved like dancers, weaving between enemy fire, striking at weak points, vanishing into cloaking fields before returning to strike again. The Nemesis led the charge, Athena's tactical systems identifying priority targets and coordinating with the other AIs. The first orbital platform died under concentrated fire from 5 Titan-class battleships, its massive bulk cracking like an egg before exploding in a shower of debris. Platform 1 is down, Arya Singh reported. Moving to Platform 2. The Hegemony fleet was adapting, trying to box us in, but they were fighting humans who had nothing left to lose. Captain Morrison's ship, the Retribution, dove straight through the middle of their formation, its guns blazing as it carved a path toward the second platform. Commander Volkov's vessel, the Defiance, used its superior speed to dance around the Hegemony's heavy cruisers, picking them off one by one. But we were taking casualties. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen's ship, the Vengeance, took a direct hit from a Hegemony dreadnought and exploded in a ball of fire. The Phoenix, crewed by Captain James Rodriguez, lost power and was swarmed by Hegemony fighters. One by one, the dead armada was being whittled down. "We've lost 6 ships," Rex reported. "At this rate, we'll be extinct before we reach the transmitter." "Then we better reach it fast," I replied. "All ships concentrate fire on Platform 3. Everything we've got, right now." The remaining 11 ships of the dead armada turned their guns on the final orbital platform. Particle beams, quantum torpedoes, and plasma cannons focused on a single point, the platform's central core. For 10 seconds, the combined firepower of humanity's finest weapons hammered against Hegemony defenses. The platform held for 9 seconds. On the 10th, it cracked. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. The platform's antimatter containment failed, and the resulting detonation vaporized a quarter of the Hegemony fleet. The shockwave rippled across space, and for a moment, the battle stopped as both sides stared at the expanding cloud of destruction. "Transmitter is accessible," Amara's voice crackled through the comm from her position on the Nemesis. "I'm uploading the shutdown code now." The Hegemony fleet realized what was happening and threw everything they had at us. Hundreds of ships, their formation shattered, their defenses breached, but still fighting with the desperation of a dying empire. The remaining ships of the dead armada formed a protective circle around the Nemesis as Amara worked to broadcast the signal. 30 seconds, she reported. The Fury exploded under concentrated fire from 6 Hegemony cruisers. The Reckoning lost its engines and began to drift helpless. The Titan-class battleship Indomitable took a direct hit to its reactor and vanished in a flash of light. 20 seconds. The Hegemony's flagship, the Eternal Dominion, emerged from the chaos of battle. A massive vessel the size of a city, its weapons could crack planets. Its main cannon began to charge, targeting the Nemesis. 15 seconds. "Jax!" Rex Morrison's voice crackled over the comm. "I'm reading massive energy buildup from their flagship. They're about to fire." 10 seconds. The Eternal Dominion fired. A beam of pure energy, hot enough to melt asteroids, lanced toward the Nemesis. But the Retribution, Captain Morrison's ship, moved to intercept. The beam struck the Retribution's hull, and the ship began to come apart. 5 seconds. Morrison's final transmission was calm, almost serene. "Tell my wife I kept my promise. Tell her I died human." The Retribution exploded, but its sacrifice bought us the time we needed. "Signal transmitted," Amara shouted. "The shutdown code is broadcasting across the galaxy." The effect was immediate and devastating. Every Hegemony ship in the system began to lose power. Their weapons went offline, their shields collapsed, their engines died. In seconds, the most powerful fleet in the galaxy became a collection of drifting hulks. But the shutdown signal did more than disable their ships. It awakened something that had been sleeping for 3,000 years. Across the galaxy, on every world the Hegemony had conquered, their control systems began to fail. The neural interfaces that kept subject species docile and obedient simply stopped working. The administrative networks that managed their empire collapsed. The automated factories that built their weapons went silent. And on 1,000 worlds, 1 billion voices cried out in a single word: freedom! The Altarians, their minds clear for the first time in centuries, rose against their Hegemony overseers. The Centauri Coalition reclaimed their homeworld. The Rigel Syndicate seized control of the galaxy's largest trade routes. species that had been enslaved for generations remembered what it meant to be free. "It's working!" Amara shouted, monitoring the signals from across the galaxy. "The entire hegemony infrastructure is collapsing! Their empire is falling apart!" But our celebration was short-lived. The hegemony's capital world might have been defenseless, but it was also home to 10 billion aliens who had just watched their empire crumble. Escape pods began launching from the disabled ships, and the surface-to-space defenses that didn't rely on their compromised networks were beginning to come online. "Time to go," I said. "All remaining ships, form up for hyperspace jump. We've done what we came to do." 7 ships remained of the original 17. 7 crews out of 67. We'd paid in blood for our victory, but we'd won something more valuable than any military conquest we'd given the galaxy hope. The dead armada jumped to hyperspace just as Zirian Prime's surface batteries opened fire. Behind us, the hegemony's capital world convulsed as its billion-year empire collapsed in real time. The 7 surviving ships of humanity's ghost fleet emerged into the safety of dark space, but the galaxy around us was anything but quiet. "Athena," I said, my voice hoarse from battle commands, "give me a status report on the shutdown signal." "The cascade is complete, Jackson," she replied, her synthetic voice carrying something that almost sounded like wonder. "Every hegemony system across 17 sectors has gone dark. Their empire isn't just falling, it's disintegrating." Through the viewports, I could see the distant glow of liberation. Entire star systems that had been dark under hegemony rule were now blazing with the light of rebellion. The Altarian homeworld, enslaved for 3 centuries, was broadcasting messages of freedom across subspace. The mining colonies of Vega were overthrowing their overseers. The research facilities where human prisoners had been subjected to neural conditioning were being stormed by their former victims. "We did it," whispered Captain Zara al-Rashid from the bridge of the Vengeance, one of the 7 ships that had survived the assault. "We actually did it." But I felt no triumph, only a hollow ache where my heart should be. 10 ships lost, 57 brave souls who would never see the galaxy they had died to free. Rex Morrison, who had thrown his ship between us and certain death. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, whose last words had been a joke about finally getting even with the aliens who had destroyed her family. "Sir," Victor Petrov's voice crackled through the comm from the Reckoning, "we're receiving priority transmissions from Earth. The hegemony occupation forces are surrendering. The planet is free. Earth. The world I had died for, been disavowed by, and ultimately saved. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Open the channel," I said. The face that appeared on my screen was weathered, older than when I had last seen it, but unmistakably President Martinez, the man who had branded me a terrorist and ordered my execution. "Commander Reeves," he said, his voice carefully neutral. We owe you an apology. And more than that, we owe you the freedom of every human being in the galaxy." "You don't owe me anything," I replied. "I didn't do this for governments or politics, I did it for them." I gestured toward the tactical display showing liberated worlds across the galaxy. "For every human child who won't grow up in chains. For every parent who won't watch their family torn apart by alien overseers. For everyone who deserves to live free." Martinez nodded slowly. "What will you do now? The hegemony is broken, but there will be chaos. Entire sectors without government, alien species turning on each other, warlords trying to carve out their own empires from the wreckage. The galaxy needs leadership." "The galaxy has leadership," I said. "It has a billion voices that were silenced and are now free to speak. It doesn't need dead men playing at being heroes." "You're not dead, Jackson." Dr. Amara Miyazaki's voice came through the comm from her station aboard the Nemesis. "None of us are. We're the ones who chose to keep fighting when everyone else gave up." I looked around the bridge of the Nemesis, at the empty stations where crew members should have been, at the scorch marks on the hull visible through the viewports, at the memorial display showing the faces of those we had lost. We were ghosts, phantoms of a war that had supposedly ended years ago. But we had become something more. We had become hope made manifest. "Athena," I said, "set course for the Procyon system. I want to check on the human colonies there." "Jackson," she said, her voice gentle, "the war is over. The hegemony is finished. You could go home now." "Home?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I don't have a home, Athena. I'm a dead man flying a ghost ship with an AI who dreams of battle. But you know what? Maybe that's exactly what this galaxy needs right now. Ghosts to watch over the living, phantoms to guard the peace we've won. The Nemesis turned toward the Procyon system, followed by the 6 other surviving ships of the dead Armada. Behind us, the galaxy burned with the light of liberation. But ahead of us lay the harder task, ensuring that freedom survived. As we jumped to hyperspace, I thought about Rex Morrison's last words. Tell my wife I kept my promise. Tell her I died human. But he hadn't just died human, he had lived human, fought human, and in the end, had helped free a galaxy because that's what humans do. We don't kneel, we don't surrender. And when the universe tries to break us, we break it right back. The hegemony was gone, but the dead Armada would endure. 7 ships, 7 crews of the officially deceased, 7 AIs who had learned to dream of more than war. We would patrol the space lanes, protect the weak, and ensure that no empire would ever again cast such a shadow across the stars. Because some things are worth dying for, and sometimes, if you're very lucky and very human, you get to keep living for them too. In the depths of space, the Nemesis and her sister ships vanished into hyperspace, carrying their ghostly crews toward whatever challenges awaited in the liberated galaxy. The war was over, but the story of the dead Armada, the ships that couldn't exist, crewed by people who shouldn't be alive, fighting for a cause that everyone said was lost, would echo through the stars for generations to come. Freedom, it turned out, was just another word for refusing to stay dead.